Right now on Hoosier News Source, a homecoming weekend shooting left 2 wounded. We spoke to some students caught in the middle of the chaos.
And find out how Monroe County is changing the rules for marijuana possession.
And I have our forecast for your fall break weekend, as well as a possibility for storms. Hoosier News Source starts now.
Hello and welcome to Hoosier News Source. I'm Ella Rhodes.
And I'm Kenley Johnson. Sunday morning, gunshots rang out just a few blocks away from campus. Hoosier News Source reporter Jack Bassett was out on the scene just moments after shots were fired.
What started out as a night of homecoming celebration transformed into a scene of chaos at the corner of Grant and 2nd Street here in Bloomington. Dozens of police cars, with their lights flashing from both Bloomington and IUPD, lit up the dark streets in blue and red, blocking off neighborhood streets and blocks, not letting anyone come near the scene of the crime. I'm currently here at the scene where the gunshots rang out right before us at this party, and we're centered around IU students living as neighbors, leaving many students to question why they did not get a notification, why they did not be informed by Indiana University of this incident. Neighbor to the scene of the shooting, IU junior David Paris shared with me his perspective inside his home just several feet away from the action.
I just got back home with some friends and we were in the house for probably no less than 5 minutes and we heard at least 8 gunshots down the street and we heard people screaming and at least 40 people ran down the street towards my house and we looked out the windows and we knew exactly what we heard. It was gunshots and we deadbolted the front door and we ran upstairs to a room that was that had a lock on it.
The sounds of gunshots and screams could be heard all the way from Kirkwood Avenue, blocks away, according to eyewitness Michael Ringland.
So I was at Nick's English Hut over on Kirkwood, and I was taking out the trash, and I heard some I thought were fireworks, a couple pops, and then it sounded more continuous, almost like automatic, semi-automatic or whatever. And then I heard people screaming, and then immediately I heard a bunch of sirens coming in, people screaming everywhere.
The victims of the shooting were both taken to IU Health and are now in stable condition. Bloomington PD now also has 20-year-old Gabriel Alsman in custody in connection to the shooting. Police believe there may be more than one shooter and ask anyone with any information to contact them and please come forward. Reporting for Hoosier News Source, I'm Jack Bassett.
Thank you, Jack. Once again, we want to remind our viewers, if you have any information about this shooting, please reach out to authorities by contacting the Bloomington PD.
Last week, a 9-year-old boy was sent to the hospital after being electrocuted near Jordan River, just outside the IMU. IU spokesperson Chuck Carney says that area is not safe, but they are still investigating the cause of the electrical shock. They say an electric current from under the bridge shocked the boy and caused him to stop breathing. Police confirmed the boy's father started CPR, followed by an IU sophomore who continued until paramedics arrived. The captain of the IUPD says emergency response was also almost immediate.
But first and foremost, I want to thank our officers because they did a fabulous job of jumping in. They didn't miss a beat, and they started CPR and used our defibrillator to try to bring the young man back to life because he was lifeless at that point.
First responders eventually used a defibrillator to revive him. Stay with us this week for updates. The Commission on Presidential Debates has released the official schedule of debates for the 2020 election, and one of them is right here in Indiana. The first debate is set to take place in September 2020 in South Bend at the University of Notre Dame. The event is one of 3 in which presidential candidates will face off before Election Day. Other hosts include the University of Michigan in Ann Arbor and Belmont University in Nashville.
A recent change in Marion County's marijuana possession laws urged Monroe County to respond. Monroe County announced that adult possession of marijuana charges under an ounce will not be pursued. The county doesn't focus on prosecution of possessing marijuana crimes. Instead, they prefer to use programs such as the pretrial diversion program for marijuana possession cases to keep people out of jail. Approximately 80% of Monroe County marijuana possession cases are resolved through this program.
Coming up, Caroline Clare joins us in studio with our weekly weather report.
And we have an update on the reconstruction of the 4th Street Garage and how it's affecting Bloomington businesses. Welcome back. If you're traveling this weekend for fall break, you should be on the lookout for some rain. Caroline Clare joins us now with a detailed look at this week's forecast. Caroline?
Thanks, Kinley. Before we get into October, let's take a look back at our September climate report. For September, the average high was 77, which is about 10 degrees above what we normally expect for this time of year. And for the low, the same applies. 55 for the average low, about 10 degrees more than we normally see for September. As for rain, we had 1.21 inches, which is actually about half what we expect for this time of year. There may not have been a lot of rain last month, but as we move into October, we have been experiencing more wet days, including our fall break weekend. On Friday, if you are commuting home for the weekend, you can expect a great drive. Mostly sunny, high of 65. Saturday, if you are staying in town, will be a beautiful day, mostly sunny, high of 71. And for Sunday, if you are commuting back to campus, just be weather aware as the night goes on that there is a chance for storms in the afternoon, which may leave some slick roads. As we take a look at our extended forecast, we can see that there is a chance for frost Thursday and Friday as lows reach near freezing temperatures. And going early into next week, a system coming through on Sunday going early into next week brings a chance of rain going into next week and dropping temperatures slightly as the week moves on. If you're traveling home for fall break, make sure to be weather aware as rain may leave roads slick. Kenley, back to you.
Thanks, Caroline. This past Thursday, IU had their annual Thank a Donor Day. The event celebrated generous donations from the university has received and tried to educate students on the impact of philanthropy. Red bows scattered around campus marked sites that were made possible by donors. Students have the opportunity to write letters to donors to show their thanks at tables set around on campus. Even though the event may be over, you can still say thanks to the generosity of the 300,000 donors at iufoundation.iu.edu.
On January 2nd, the 4th Street parking garage was closed for repairs. Weather conditions pushed reconstruction back to the beginning of September, leaving employees and residents struggling to find a parking spot. When the garage was first built, it was predicted to last for 50 years. It only lasted 33. The city's original plan was to repair the garage for $1.1 million. That plan was changed to entirely rebuilding the garage for $18.5 million, limiting parking for local employees and residents. Before the shutdown of the garage, many employees used a parking permit to ensure a spot. Now some employees have been paying $10 a day to find parking, or even parking illegally.
We do get complaints of customers either A, having trouble finding a spot, or B, feeling rushed to have to go fill their meter.
Demolition of the garage will take about 90 days to complete, and the construction will take up to a year. And with that, thank you so much for watching this week's episode of Hoosier News Source.
To learn more about this week's stories, you can find us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at IUSTV News.
I'm Ella Rhodes.
And I'm Kenley Johnson. From Bloomington, Indiana, we'll see you next time.